Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, my roommate's girlfriend tried getting me evicted, so I got her dumped. 7 years ago, I moved into a 4-bedroom house with 3 of my friends. I was the only woman among 3 dudes. One of the roommates was the owner's son. We were all friends in college, and honestly, it was the best 2 years ever living situation-wise. We all had different work schedules, and because I worked the earliest, 6 a.m., I had the only downstairs bedroom. My friend, let's call him Jay, who worked night shift and got home at 4:30 a.m., had the room above me, so that we didn't wake each other up coming home. During the week, Jay and I would eat breakfast together before he went to bed and I went to work. We had a jar in the kitchen we would all throw spare cash into, like $5 to $10 at a time each. That was for common groceries, like milk, eggs, bread, occasional house meals, and beer, because we were in our early to mid-20s. The rule was always that if you used the last of the common use stuff, you take from the jar to cover the cost and grab it from the store ASAP. When we grabbed pizza, or I'd make a meal for everyone, we used the same fund. This all is very important. About 5 months into the living situation, Jay met Karen and started dating her. He brought her to one of our game nights to introduce her to us and to get a feel for how she meshed with us. And all was fine when she thought I was only the girlfriend of another roommate. Because we were playing in the dining room right by my room, Karen saw me go in that room to grab a sweater early in the night. Then she saw my roommate, the one she assumed I was dating, go upstairs and grab his phone charger. The entire vibe changed and she started to ask me who I was dating. She was floored when my roommates confirmed that I lived there. I had my own room and I wasn't dating any of them. She saved face, said she was just surprised I'd want to live with 3 men, and we moved on. Cam, the owner's son, and I were the only ones that realized Karen saw this as a problem. After that, she started coming over right after I got off work and only leaving when Jay went to work. If I came out of my room to the living room, she'd ask why I was out there. If I was going to the kitchen, she would remark that I was being disrespectful to her and Jay and interrupting their time together. If I was talking to Jay when she got there, she'd start trying to kiss him. She even complained that I was ruining the mood for doing my laundry. Jay had made it clear that he knew she was a problem and had started pushing for them to just chill in his room. After a couple of weeks, she had gotten drunk before Jay went to work and we insisted she stay in his room and sleep it off. I literally brought her food and Tylenol because she was going to feel like crap in the morning. The next morning, Jay came down and started making breakfast for me and him when Karen came down and just started screaming. She woke up our other roommates. She accused Jay of cheating, accused me of having relations with all of the guys, then made the dumbest statement possible. She demanded I pay Jay back for the food he was wasting on me. Cam literally grabbed a $5 from the jar and slipped it in Jay's hand. Cam and I had a coming to Jesus talk with Jay. We both told him that if she couldn't deal with me living there, then she could no longer come over. Jay asked for a week to figure things out, trying to claim that she was just caught by surprise when she saw him making me breakfast and not thinking clearly. We gave him a week. In that week, mysteriously, the grocery jar was getting raided. We all noticed and talked about it. We noticed my clean dishes were appearing, still clean, in the sink. Little things were disappearing from common rooms and weirdly appearing in my room. Karen was being sweet. She was not exactly covert. Cam and I knew she was sowing chaos, but being curious where this was headed, we just watched. After a week, Cam gets a call from his mom asking if I had been going through something lately. Apparently, a concerned party had sent her picture after picture and story upon story about how I was trashing the house and stealing. Karen expected this to get me in trouble. Lucky for me, my landlord was actually worried I was not doing okay and wanted Cam to help me get through it. Cam told me, and I started planning my petty revenge. First thing I did was eliminate the grocery jar. I split up what was in it evenly between the 4 of us and told them that because of the raided stash, I felt it needed to go away. Karen didn't like this, but when asked why, she claimed it was rude for me to make a unilateral decision. Cam backed me, battle won. Then I started hanging with Cam in the living room every day. She complained, but Jay told her it's our house and we can do as we please. When she would go to the kitchen, one of us always asked what she was doing in our fridge. She stopped going in our fridge after 2 days. The weekend was here, and we knew Jay had an extra overnight shift, and Karen was planning to stay in his room so they could hang out the next day. Cue my biggest petty move ever. Just a little information. Cam and I met in college where we both studied theater, specifically acting. That Friday, we hung out in his room right next to Karen's. We made a bit of a show when Jay left and acted like he could not know that Cam and I were hanging out alone in his room. This caught Karen's attention. We started making sounds like shaking the bed. Within minutes, we got a text from Jay asking what we were doing. Cam replied, "Playing video games." After 10 minutes, we stopped shaking the bed and actually did play some video games on mute. When Jay demanded a FaceTime session, he saw exactly what he needed to see, me beating Cam in Mario Party. We cycled through this for a few hours. After a while, we decided to put the finishing touches on. We made a big deal about me needing to go to my room before Jay got home, and Karen took the bait. We could see the little bit of light being cut off in the slightly open door by her watching. Cam and I stage kissed, and I headed to the living room. Jay got back 10 minutes later to find me watching a movie, normal for me, and asked what was up. I told him I'd been up playing video games all night with Cam. He tells me Karen claimed that we were doing other things, and I told him we weren't. He goes to bed. The next day, Jay calls a house meeting without Karen. He tells us she's making claims of us having a relationship and hiding it from him. We say that she's full of it. We tell him about the frame job she tried to pull, how she went to Cam's mom to get me in trouble. Jay asks our other roommate if he heard anything from the bedroom. Bro doesn't even flinch and says, "I heard them playing Mario Party. That's all they were doing." Jay asked about the grocery jar. We all told him that we suspected Karen. The next day, he broke up with her for trying to turn him against us. He called her a liar and a thief. A few months later, he dated another girl. She was awesome, and they're married now. I was a bridesmaid. But the absolute best part? Karen being one of the waitstaff and seeing Cam with his wife and me with my fiance, telling them the story of how we had gotten rid of her. Yes, Jay knows the whole story, and he didn't mind at all. To address the reason Jay wanted to know if we were actually hooking up, he's the kind of dude that hates useless secrets. If Cam and I were hooking up, he'd be fine with it. If we were hooking up and actively hiding it from him like we couldn't trust him, he'd have an issue. That was why we played hard into the Jay can't know part. Though Cam says that Jay secretly wanted us, Cam and I, to get together. But nah. Karen spies on my phone call with my girlfriend. I, 18 male, have been dating my girlfriend who's 17 for about 7 months now. Tonight, her and I had a deep conversation about some relationship hiccups, and I shared personal family struggles that I typically only discuss with my therapist. As we finally got to a place we felt comfortable leaving things, I heard whispering in the background. When I asked my girlfriend about it, she adamantly denied anyone else being there. However, as I continued asking, she started crying. Just then, her mom pretended to come in the room and scold her for being up to try and cover up the fact that she had been sitting there for an hour. Turns out, her mom has been sneakily listening in on almost every serious conversation or argument we've ever had. I felt absolutely betrayed and I hung up immediately. Since then, both my girlfriend and her mom have been apologizing and trying to shift blame onto me. This violation of privacy has left me feeling super violated and unsure how to handle the situation. I do feel bad for hanging up so abruptly, but I just didn't know how to process what was going on. Am I the jerk for hanging up on my girlfriend after discovering her mom was spying during our personal conversations? Any guidance on how to navigate this would be greatly appreciated. Edit. I woke up an hour ago and watched all of the comments come in while eating a whole margarita pizza. To provide more context, throughout our relationship, my girlfriend has often joked about how her mom can get any information from her. However, I've witnessed firsthand how true this is lately. I've also noticed that my girlfriend doesn't respect privacy, claiming she needs a confidant because my situations are too much for her mentally, but then her mom knows everything I share in confidence. I also have tried not talking to her, but she pushes every time. Because of this, I've become extremely cautious about sharing personal details. They're both very religious, and while I share the same beliefs, it's been a contentious issue in our relationship. Her mom used religion to justify intruding on my personal life, citing the need to guide me if I'm sinning. My own family life has been challenging. I had to move out at 18 to escape. I talked to my own mother about all of this, and her response was to say that it was not the worst thing and I was overreacting, which is why I felt like posting. Her mom has expressed that she sees me as part of her family, which has led to her trying to control various aspects of my life, like dictating when I can drink coffee or imposing a bedtime. She's also shared my private struggles with her pastor and best friend, who've tried to intervene and fix me. I deeply care for my partner, but I can't envision a future where her mother's involvement is so intense in our lives. I plan to talk to her about this tonight, and I'll update you afterwards. How did Mom listen in? OP. She sat in the room, and my girlfriend had me on speakerphone. I thought nothing of it because she has always just put me on speaker in her room, but now I see why. A foundation in relationships is trust. That's not there anymore, and it's okay to break up. OP. Thank you. It's tough because there's so much good, but this was just so violating. I keep thinking what happens if a few months from now we have to have a really serious conversation and her mom wants to be part of it. There are a lot of red flags here. I definitely recommend you speak with your therapist. OP. I think this is a great idea. Thank you. I just bumped our appointment up now. Update. 9 hours later. She just called me at work. She started the conversation by saying she thinks we should probably break up because she can't do it anymore. I'll be honest, I snorted. She asked why, and I responded by asking her if it was because she was scared to talk to me face to face or if it was because she just didn't want to deal with the fact that she messed up and hurt me. She said it was because I say everything is her fault. For context, I know I have a lot of problems because of a really hard home life and upbringing, and I acknowledge when I make mistakes. Last night was mostly me having to apologize and explain myself over and over. But this time, I flat out told her that this was 1000% her and her mom's fault. I then had to go because I'm at work and people needed help. I then got the text saying things like, "I guess this is all my fault," and "I deserve to sit in my consequences apparently." She wants me to come over to her house after work to sort things out. I think I'm going to see if we can meet alone in a public place to ensure privacy. I'll update after that. Final update. We ended up breaking up a bit after. She apologized in the end, but trust was gone. Bruh, I'm sorry, but where do y'all find these people that you date? I had an affair with a married man, and I still don't think I deserve how kind his wife has been. I didn't know he was cheating. He told me he was in his late 30s, never married, and there were no pictures of his family on his social media, so I trusted him. I was 18, but then I got pregnant. We weren't planning on it, but I was happy. I feel so stupid now, but I really thought we could build a life together. He tried to convince me to not have it, and when I said no, he just ghosted me entirely. I ended up finding his real Facebook account. Everything he told me except his first name was a lie. He's 45 and was married, and they had 2 kids, the oldest only being 3 years younger than me. I ended up messaging his wife. I'll call her Mary for this. She asked me a few questions, thanked me, and promised that she didn't blame me, and I thought that was that. When my son was born, I gave him my last name, and I told the hospital staff I didn't know who the father was because I was embarrassed about what I had done. 6 months later, Mary reached out to me. She told me the divorce was ongoing. She separated from her husband. He basically ditched their family entirely as soon as he was found out, which makes sense in hindsight, and wanted to know if I'd be okay meeting up to talk about things. I agreed, and to be honest, I basically had a breakdown in Starbucks while talking to her. I dropped out of college, my applications for government assistance were taking too long, my own parents wanted nothing to do with me, and I was at risk of losing my apartment. I felt like a failure, and I was considering giving up my son for adoption because I didn't think I'd be able to care for him. I still feel awful about her having to comfort me, but she did. She outright hugged me despite everything, and a week later she reached out again, saying she had talked to her kids and that if I wanted, I could come and stay with their family. I've been living with them for almost a year now. My room used to be Mary's husband's game room, apparently, but now it's me and my son's. It was very awkward at first, especially with the kids, but they never hated me for what I did, and after some adjusting, we've been getting along well. We hang out sometimes at home and stuff. We've had a couple of sessions of all airing out our grievances about their dad, and they've both come to me for advice. The youngest invited me to her drama club's Christmas play, and I don't think I've ever been so honored. They call my son their nephew instead of their half-brother, which I guess makes us maybe sisters, but I don't want to push that if they're not comfy, so I'm not putting a label on it. And Mary's just been an absolute angel. I've tried to get her to accept rent more than once, but she insists that as long as I'm saving some money, I don't owe her anything. She's helped with childcare, she buys food for us with everyone else, and she's promised that she'll fund a lawyer if I ever feel ready to go after her ex for child support. She called me my eldest when talking to a friend recently, and y'all, I had to go and cry for a while. She really does treat me and my son like family, and I think she's going to be his grandma. My son's going to grow up with a loving household I didn't have because this woman looked at me, the person her husband cheated with, and chose to open her heart. I still don't really feel like I deserve it. I haven't told them that because I don't want to be ungrateful for what this family's done for me, but I still struggle to imagine doing the same in her position. I don't understand how she can look at me without feeling hurt about what happened, let alone basically call me her kid, but I don't want any of that to change. I don't expect to live here forever, but Mary's been clear that I don't need to move out, and after rushing to get away once in my life, I don't want to do it again. For now, I'm working and saving up, and I hope to move out sometime next year. I might think about going back to school, but it depends on how things shake out. I don't think I could manage work, college, and my son at the same time, at least when he's still so young, and I really don't want to ask for any more from Mary and the kids. I do plan to go after child support eventually, but I'm afraid of having to face Mary's ex-husband in court, or at all to be honest, so it's something I'm working up to. I do help around the house. I'm on the chore rotation, and I buy groceries, etc. when Mary doesn't. I do pay Mary's eldest to look after my son on occasion. I've offered to pay Mary too, but like the rent, she insists I keep it, and she's paying for his daycare. For the anniversary, I'm going to have a friend of mine watch my son and take them all out for a nice dinner as a way of saying thanks. I know it's the least I can do, but I'm trying. I might show Mary this post, but I'm not sure at the moment. It might not feel like it. I'm not sure how I'm coming across, but to me, I've been quite raw here, and I also don't want to put anything more onto her. But I will definitely tell her how I feel and make sure she knows how much she and her family mean to me. Am I wrong for being upset with my husband for putting his foot down? I'm 34, female. My husband, who's 38, has put his foot down, and I'm not feeling good about it. We've been married for 12 years, and they've been tumultuous to say the least. In the past, I've made comments about how many times we've done things he likes to do, like how many sporting events we've been to, many, and how often we do things that I like to do, like going to concerts, 0. In 2020, he bought me tickets for my birthday, but the concert was rescheduled because of lockdown, and once it finally happened a year later, we had moved out of state and couldn't take the trip, so we lost the money. Today I mentioned maybe we could go to a music festival near our home this summer with our tax return. I said we could just go for one day. The tickets are inexpensive at around $90 each for multiple shows, including a big-name headliner. Maybe $300, including drinks for the both of us. I really wanted to go last year, but we couldn't afford it. This year, we're getting a nice return and thought we could swing it. We've discussed lots of options, including going on a trip he's been wanting to go on for a long time, and saving for our kids' birthdays and Christmas, as well as paying off a big bill that's been pushed for a little while and new tires for his truck. When I asked about the festival, he told me he already decided we were going to pay off a credit card with the remaining money. When I asked him why he didn't talk to me about that and how I wasn't sure we could pay the whole thing off, he told me he was head of the household and has made the decision. Then he kept talking. He said it's his money. I'm a stay-at-home mom of our 3 kids with a part-time job that doesn't bring in a lot. And he worked all year for it, and that he's putting his foot down. He said if I wanted to go to the festival, I could save up my money and go. When I mentioned again that I feel like we get to do things he wants often, he said, "I bought you tickets," and then said he paid the same amount for the concert we couldn't go to as he did for the NFL game he went to last year, so it's fair. Huh? I didn't even get to go to the concert, but since he's been to 3 NFL games, 1 in 2021, 2 in 2022, 1 in January, and another in October of that year. My argument isn't even about the festival, although it would be nice if once in a while my special events could be considered, but that he just decided what he was going to do with the money without even talking to me about it. I explained that it really hurt my feelings that my opinion wasn't even considered, and I think in a marriage, it shouldn't be a dictatorship. It should be a partnership where we come to decisions together. I don't even think paying off the bill is a bad idea. I think it makes sense financially, but it's the way he talks to me. My money. I'm putting my foot down. He said he was sorry for hurting my feelings, but he was still going to do what he wanted to do anyway. Am I wrong for being upset about this? Update. I'm going to try to put a monetary value on everything I do and show him. The funny part to me is that he said he's the head of the household and our parents would all agree with him, but I've got 400 plus strangers agreeing with me. I wanted to add some context. I want to be transparent. I don't want to paint a pretty picture of myself just so my husband looks bad. I'm a stay-at-home mom, but my kids go to school full-time. They are 11, 10, and 6. I get the kids up in the mornings and get everybody ready. Breakfast, make sure everybody has what they need, snacks, etc., and then do the school runs to 2 different schools. Once I get back home, 2 hours after I've woken up, it's cleaning, taking care of my pets, grocery runs, errands, etc. Maybe once 2 weeks I do a little thrifting, and once or twice a week I see my sister. I very rarely go anywhere when my kids are not at school. My job is in childcare, and I have a toddler come to my home about 4 days a week, 6 hours a day. The toddler comes in the afternoons, about an hour before my kids get home from school. 2 of them ride the bus, and the third gets picked up, toddler and kids in tow. Once I'm home, I tend to the toddler, nap, etc., and start dinner. I make all of the food, 99% of it, serve dinner, dishes, and tending to and feeding the toddler while continuing to care for my own kids. Oftentimes, my husband is just around, in the bedroom or playing PlayStation. Sometimes he pitches in. Weekends are spent hanging out while I still cook the meals and facilitate playdates, friends, etc. My husband has BPD, and if anyone has had experiences with that, you know how difficult it can be to navigate. And yes, it resembles narcissism. I have no idea what's on the credit card as I haven't used it in over a year. Writing all this out makes me feel like it doesn't look like much, but I know how much work and time goes into each individual thing. A lot. I'm tired and sore at the end of every day. I'd love to get a job while he takes over some things, but I fear he'll let everything I've worked so hard to keep together slip, and things in the home or with the kids will fall apart. Basically, I don't trust him 100%. I have plenty of reasons why not. Maybe that's a control issue I have that I need to work out and talk to my therapist about. But after years of realizing he just doesn't have the emotional capacity that the kids need, it's hard to let go. I've gotten jobs, been hired on, at multiple places in the last couple of years, and it was always some excuse as to why I couldn't or shouldn't work there. He had overtime, so who would watch the kids usually? I would like to get a part-time job while my kids are at school during the day, but the amount of sick days my kids have had this year have made that impossible. It would be on me to navigate arranging childcare and schedules, and as mentally and physically exhausted as I already am, I don't think I can manage that too. I don't know if I've given enough context, and I'll be happy to add more if needed. I know the door is closing on my marriage, and all of your comments just help me see that even more. It's been over a long time. Maybe I'm wrong for holding on to nothing but dreams of what should have been a happy life. You are not wrong. Paying off a bill is a better choice. He should also be skipping the NFL games if there are bills to pay. But those types of decisions should be made together. It's likely that there's a pattern of him disrespecting you because he knows your job doesn't bring in much, and it would be difficult for you to leave him. You need to put your foot down and require he treat you respectfully and as an equal partner. If he doesn't respect you enough to do that, you need to reevaluate your relationship. Or put your foot down and ask how he will adjust his hours so he can take on 50% of the childcare and housework so that you can earn your own money. Because it's not his money. Being a stay-at-home parent is a decision made by both partners, and it's based upon both partners working while only one earns money. You're working just as much as he is. You doing what you do is what allows him to earn his money. Could he go to work every day if you weren't doing childcare? Is he fine with spending 4 hours a night doing housework, homework, and organizing kids' things that you do during the day? He is making the responsible decision. Both of you have recognized that there are bills that need to be paid off, and this will only haunt you in the future. Many people would put their foot down over a matter like this because it impedes any future plans for everyone. About money, men and women do this all the time. It's why financial matters are the most common cause of conflict for couples. People on Reddit will call for a breakup and divorce for everything, so take these comments with a grain of salt. You are in a marriage, keep communication open, and make your concerns known if you want to work it out. I think you failed to read the part where the husband told OP that the money was his, that he was head of the household, and that he would do what he wanted regardless of how she feels. It's not about him paying off a bill. He sounds like a jerk. Total cringe. Am I the jerk for keeping my word about not letting my sister into my daughter's life over her choice of a baby name? My sister, Kelly, who's 28, and I, 30 female, have never gotten along. Let's get that out of the way right now. I know my judgment is probably biased because of this. Ever since we were kids, she would always try to copy or one-up me. For example, in school, she'd join every club or sport I was in and try to beat me at it. Debate, chess, tennis, etc. Kelly would always throw it in my face that she had better friends than me, which really meant she was in with a popular crowd while I preferred to have friends with people that I actually liked. Our mom went to an Ivy League school, which I also applied to and was accepted. And when it was time for Kelly to apply to colleges, she applies to an even more prestigious Ivy League and was rejected. She threw a big fit about not getting in when she was a much better student than me. Anyway, Kelly and I were both pregnant at the same time. I was pregnant first. And once my partner and I found out the gender, we decided to use a name that I've loved since I was little, Josephine. Kelly knows that this is my dream baby name, and I thought that she'd have enough respect to consider this one name as off limits, but no. 2 weeks later, she and her boyfriend announced that they were pregnant with baby Josie. I called her up to ask if she was really going to name her baby the same name as mine, and she smugly said that I was free to change my baby's name because she hadn't been born yet. Never mind that she was far less along than I was. My partner and I stuck to our guns because we honestly didn't think she'd go through with it and welcomed baby Josephine into the world 6 months ago. We announced the birth on social media, and to my horror, the very next week, Kelly posted a picture of some custom blankets she had ordered with the name Josie on them for her little Jojo, which is a nickname my partner and I used for our Josephine in our post. I called her again to basically tell her to change her plans for her baby's name because my Josephine had already been born and her name is on the birth certificate. I told Kelly bluntly that I was calling her bluff, and she told me that she wasn't bluffing and that I was free to change my baby's name or else there would be 2 Jojos in the family. I called her a huge narcissist and told her that she wasn't welcome in my baby Jojo's life if she went through with stealing my Jojo's name. 2 weeks after my birth, Kelly gave birth to her baby Josie. I didn't contact her at all, not to offer support or to tell her off for stealing my baby's name. I figured that she was in recovery and that I shouldn't stress her out immediately after giving birth. Last week, Kelly called me up because she wanted to come over and meet my baby now that she's 6 months old. I asked her if she had changed her baby's name, and she confusedly said no. I reminded Kelly of what I'd told her back before our babies had been born, and she called me an unreasonable jerk. Now the whole family is up in arms against me for not letting my sister meet her niece. Am I the jerk here? I don't see a problem with going no contact with someone who seems extremely committed to your unhappiness. Not the jerk. This seems like a last straw in your relationship. Tell your family Kelly won't meet your daughter and they won't see her either unless they stand down. The time for them to be up in arms was when Kelly came up with her crazy plan, and that time has passed. Seriously, how could your parents not call her out on this? How could her boyfriend not? Am I the jerk for breaking up with my fiancé just because he's dumb? I, 25 female, grew up in a pretty strict Asian household where academics were everything. I have 2 bachelor's degrees and a master's, all from the most prestigious colleges. The only activity I was allowed as a kid were piano and fencing, since they would look good on college applications. So when I met my ex through mutuals, it was like a whole new world for me. He was so much fun, an extrovert who let his intrusive thoughts win kind of guy. Being with him was an escape from reality to me. He would always try and explore different places, activities, food, and so on. To conclude, he was the complete opposite of me, which I was attracted to. After a year of dating, he asked me to marry him during a surprise engagement party where he invited around 50 people, all his friends. Well, in the heat of the moment and everyone shouting, I said yes. When I recollected and organized my thoughts about how I feel about living with him, I just couldn't imagine it. I work at an MNC and I have a high-paying job, which in return causes a lot of pressure and work stress. When I try to talk to him about my day and work, he's always so disinterested and thinks I'm boasting about my job. A random instance I remember is when I was talking about the gas prices increasing because of Ukraine, to which he followed up asking, "Who is Ukraine?" I like having conversations about current events, politics, or even a book I just finished reading, but he has absolutely no interest or even tries to gain knowledge about anything. I also realized we never really had a real conversation except for gossiping about people, I suppose. Well, I told my fiancé about how I don't see myself spending the rest of my life with someone I can't hold normal conversations with. We broke up, and it was pretty peaceful. Or so I thought. The next day, he brought all of his friends to trash my place, go off on me, saying I always look down on him, and that I'm a jerk for leaving him because I think he's dumb. So, am I? Not the jerk. It sounds like you broke up because you have nothing in common. It's important to have a partner you share something in common with and can have regular conversations with. They say opposites attract, but research shows that the best relationships are ones where the partners have a lot in common. I think opposites do attract, but I see it as more strengths and weaknesses rather than core values or interests. For example, my girlfriend is extremely organized and punctual. She's like a sentient planner with her level of foresight and scheduling. She has saved me from my ADHD scatterbrain more times than I can count. However, she's terrified of social interactions with strangers or large groups. I feel very comfortable in social situations, so I do most of the heavy lifting when we go out. At the end of the day, we both value loyalty, honesty, and open communication. We lead similar introverted lifestyles. I love my video games and TV. She loves her phone and TV. We love binging shows together and going to the movies. I think opposites can attract, but there needs to be some similarities at the foundation of the relationship and character traits, especially when it comes to conversation. Everyone sucks here. His reaction to the breakup makes him a jerk, and your obvious "I'm better than other people" attitude makes you a jerk. So 2 jerks breaking up was the correct thing to do. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.